Welcome back to the part two of our Community Association Culture episode with Mr. Tom Skiba. He is the CEO of Community Association Institute. And maybe you're expecting me to say what chapter, but it's not a chapter thing. It's an international affair. Steve, tell us a little bit about where's Tom just come back from?
So I've been hearing a lot about this, and yes, it is international. We're talking community association, common interest communities across the globe. Tom, welcome back from your trip to Dubai. How are things out there in the Middle East?
A lot warmer than they are here in Virginia right now. 85 and sunny, so I highly recommend it.
All right, so my first question is, and I keep hearing the name Dubai a lot. What's going on over there that's sparking all of this interest from CAI?
Well, it's not just Dubai. It's throughout the Middle East, throughout the UAE and Qatar and Bahrain, even Saudi Arabia. The pace of development, primarily in the condominium market, but also in the HOA market, is just amazing. There are new projects going up. There are new developments coming out of the ground. There's housing demand there that is greater than anywhere else in the world right now. And they have the money to do it, obviously. I mean, we've seen in less than 25 years, Dubai go from a relatively sleepy small city to a showplace, with the tallest building in the world and hundreds of towers over 50 stories tall and just amazing projects. And it's happening throughout the Middle East.
I guess there's a huge demand for it, and so why not help fill that with the experience that we have in this country, spreading it over there so that they can preserve those communities. Those buildings don't get younger year over year.
That's exactly right, Steve. And, the most interesting part of it for me is that, particularly for the community association managers, the job, while the laws are different and the regulations are different anywhere you go, whether it's from New Jersey to Pennsylvania to California or to Dubai or Canada, the basics of being an effective manager of a community association are exactly the same everywhere. We've seen managers go from California to work in Dubai or come from South Africa to work here in the US, and the transition is relatively seamless.
Very interesting. Now, before we jump into the meat of this episode, I wanted to ask you, as far as these new communities being built in Dubai, is it mostly foreign investment, people buying second homes or investment money, or is it actually locals that are living in those communities?
David, it's both. I mean, you see lots of locals in all these places, but you also see, particularly in the Middle East, a huge percentage of the population are expatriate and they're from somewhere else. So in Dubai, you have 5 million people living in Dubai. Probably 20% of them are actually Emiratis. The rest are expatriates from somewhere else around the world. And the same is happening in other places, in Qatar, in Bahrain. There's huge expatriate populations who are, in many ways, building the infrastructure and building these communities that have to be housed.
Wow. It's fascinating.
Very cool. So last time we talked, we were jumping into things that are really stressful for managers. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it is a topic that is so important for all of us. The service providers are impacted by the stress levels that the manager are dealing with because, it reduces our bandwidth. Everybody has to be more conscious about what the managers are dealing with. And this year, we've seen some pretty sad events. The event that happened in particular in Atlanta back in August, where a manager was actually killed on the job, has been an eye-opener for many people that are not managers. It was something that made national news. How do you feel that this particular event impacted the managers nationwide from coast to coast?
Well, I mean, being a community association manager has always been a stressful job. I think this just adds to that stress level. And all of us have been under a lot of stress as a result of COVID, as a result of lockdowns. It's been 2.5, almost 3 years now that we've all kind of had to live through a very challenging period in all of our lives, both personally and professionally. So, we're very concerned about manager well-being. And that's really one of the things that our Managers Council and the board have been talking a lot about in the past year or so. And certainly the event in Atlanta in August only brought this to everyone's attention even more clearly. We want people to remember to focus on their own personal health and well-being and wellness and the team around them. And we all have to be responsible for ourselves, but we also have to be responsible for each other. And that's one of the things that we've talked a lot about is how do we step away from that stress. And everybody needs to have that outlet and that way to step away. Most recently, we published a wellness guide for managers to give them some ideas on how to do that, whether it's meditation or physical exercise or whatever it is you do to kind of have that break between your day-to-day job and the stress of it and being able to relax. I go play ice hockey when I'm stressed. I knock people down. It makes me feel much better.
Drop the gloves.
Yeah, exactly. It's cheaper than therapy, Steve.
Okay.
So it's funny you say that. With Steve and several other partners from the Keystone chapter, about a year ago, we put together a charity event that was called Score for the Cure. We were raising money for JDRF, and it was a hockey event, and we had the teams that came from different places to participate in this tournament. And sure enough, we had a couple that went at it.
We had to remind them, this is a charity event.
Yeah, I know, right? No, that's hockey players. I'm too old to fight anymore. Just being out there and being physical and burning off energy is a good stress release. And so everybody has to have that in their life.
You know, last week we were talking about managers and the stress levels, and you touched on all the different hats that a manager has to wear, right? They got a lot of different jobs to do, and everybody expects them to operate at the highest level at all times now. And we have to remember that when COVID hit, that magnified because people are now not going to work. They're working from home, and their homes are in these communities. The stress levels have just skyrocketed. So what can we do to help ease some of those stresses for the managers? Their job description didn't change, but the actual volume of work tripled, quadrupled. So what can we do as CAI to help out the manager?
I think there are things you can do. First of all, getting people away from that, even a little distance. And one of the things I noticed, because I go to a lot of chapter events all across the country and around the world, is how important having that network of people who you can share all of these stresses with. I tell this story a lot. You can take a group of managers from all across the United States and even around the world and take 10 or 12 of them and put them at a table, give them a couple of bottles of wine, and within half an hour, 45 minutes, they're going to be best friends forever because they have so much shared experience. And being able to talk about that shared experience, being able to pick each other's brains for solutions, being able to have someone to pick up the phone and call and say, I just need to unload for 5 minutes about what happened today. To release that stress is a tremendously valuable thing. In fact, I think CAI does an enormous number of very good things, right? Our education is top notch, our publications, our advocacy, all those things are great. But in the end, I think one of the most valuable things we provide to members, and it's not just managers, but it's business partners like yourself, is the opportunity to build a network of peers, maybe even outside your own little market, that you can have conversations with, that you can solve problems with, that you can de-stress with. That's got an unbelievable amount of value in my mind.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more on this, especially with Concha. We have a coast-to-coast network. Sometimes I have a question, I reach out to Marcy Kravitz or to Charles on the other side of the country, and we're able to have these conversations. I think it's important too, like you said, for managers to also build that.
Yeah.
And on that, I'll do a little plug for Kyle Costa from Florida. He's an exemplary manager in that regard, always encouraging others to do that too. Now,
the other thing I would add, David, is chocolate. Chocolate is always a solution.
All right. Keep that in mind, Steve. Bring me chocolate. All right. So you mentioned earlier fighting on a hockey ring. We talked about finding a way to release stress. I've seen organizations, not necessarily CAI, but I did see some CAI chapter organizing, especially following the events in August, some self-defense classes. How do you feel about that personally?
There's certainly no downside to doing that, right? I mean, if nothing else, it's good physical exercise. It's good training to have. I don't know that that's the solution to potential problems and potential risks, David, but it's not something that's going to hurt. For a lot of people, self-defense training, judo or aikido or others, is as much a mental thing as it is a physical thing, and they're both beneficial. I did that back when I was way younger and much more limber and flexible. Not anymore.
All right. All right, Steve, any other question from you?
Yoga. That's what you got to look for, is the yoga. Stay flexible. Actually, if we could, how about we talk a little bit about the future? What do we have coming down the pipe for CAI for 2023?
Well, the single biggest thing that's coming down the pipe for 2023 is that next year will be CAI's 50th anniversary. We will have been in business for 50 years. We started out with a couple of hundred members in 1973. We are closing in on 44,000 members, actually, and hope to hit that before conference next year. But we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary throughout the year, beginning with our law seminar event in January through conference. Okay. If anybody out there is ever thought about attending, this is a great year to do it. It'll be a big show and a big party in Dallas, Texas. The party's going to be so big, we had to move it to Texas.
Nice. Nicely done.
And we are really excited about it. I invited all of our past presidents to attend. We have a huge international contingent we expect to attend, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's great training, it's great education, it's great experience, but we also have a great time doing it.
Yeah, and we'll be there. I believe Steve and I have plans to be there this year. Maybe we could figure out a little collaboration between CAI and Car Chat. You talked about the expo. Now I would like to give you 15, 30 seconds. You plug for whatever you want. It can be your favorite charity, favorite hockey team, you name it, you go for it.
Sadly, my favorite hockey team is having a tough year. Not as bad as the Flyers, but almost. Couldn't resist. No, look, if I have to plug anything, it's really engagement. We want our members to feel engaged. We want them to participate at the chapter level. We want them to be involved at the national level. We want them to build their network and their capacity and their capabilities. And the more active you are in any organization, not just CAI, but the more active you are involved in an organization like ours, the more you're going to get out of it. And as you guys know, the more events you attend, the chapter events, the national events, you're making connections, you're building a network. And that's critical to everybody in the industry, regardless of what role you play, manager or board or business partner. Get engaged. That's the most important thing anybody can do.
Outstanding. That's really, really great advice, Tom. And thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us and all the managers and the boards and the vendors and the industry folks out there. Thank you so much for coming.
I appreciate that. Thank you guys for having me.
We appreciate you. And in the meantime, we hope to continue having your support by logging in Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Car Chat. We have a lot of things coming up in 2023, more guests, more fun, and we look forward to see you on the other side of the year in just a few days. See you around, Tom.